Hello there, everyone. It's Patricia Hayes here, your executive advisor, career empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. And I am here with our coffee chat for today with a new focus. We're going to be focusing on authentic networking. So, this is Coffee Chat Networking Edition, and I welcome you to doing this in the new year. One thing that is super, super important is that we still have to build out and to manage and nurture our professional relationships. So, we're going to spend more time doing that. This is the topic that is near and dear to my heart. It is one that I have been speaking on for several years now, and I have been sprinkling throughout the coffee chats that I hosted throughout 2020. But I decided that if we're going to move forward faster in 2021, that maybe it's worth absolutely focusing a little more in detail on this subject. And thus, Coffee Chat Networking Edition was born. And so that's what we're going to be doing once a week. You can check in on Wednesdays, and you will be able to tap in to the coffee chat to be able to, get a copy of it, to listen in, give me some feedback in the comments, and make sure that we can stay on top of what your real issues and concerns are about continuing to build your professional relationships, particularly in the environment that we're in right now today. Which gets us to our topic for today. Fresh starts for a fresh year, right? Definitely the thing that's most common at the beginning of a new year is, it's like, well, that calendar has flipped and we're ready to go. Here's the reality though. The reality is that although the calendar says it's a new year, we are absolutely still focused and having to deal with the issues of the previous year. In particular, the fact that we are still, so many of us, working remotely. We are not connecting as much as we might otherwise have in real time. So what are we to do? And that is the focus of this very first Coffee Chat Authentic Networking Edition, which is how you can start the new year, focus on new opportunities while still building and nurturing your professional relationships from the previous year. So many times when I get this question, it's about where to start and how, regardless. So I know that is at top of mind for so many people out there right now, particularly because of the work from home, the working remotely, the social distancing that we're all having to do. So people are like, why are we even talking about this? Like, this is just ridiculous. Here is the reality of it. As I have been saying for over the last year, that regardless of when this pandemic started and when this pandemic ends, you still must continue to nurture the professional relationships that you have. If you do not, if you blow it off and ignore it, when this pandemic is over, you will be behind the curve. Plain and simple. Because relationships require nurturing, even in the most difficult and challenging times. You may not nurture them in the same way that you might have before. Hello, in-person happy hours are not happening, even though that's not my favorite quote nurturing, tip for building relationships. But those private coffee chats, like I was used to having 2 or 3 times a week, and how these shows began to begin with was to replace that, right? So we have to think outside the box, or we have to think even inside the box, but how to do some things that we might not have done a little bit differently or maybe a little more often. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But here's the first thing that I want to make sure that everyone knows is that regardless of the method, here is your strategy. Your strategy is to focus on being you and continuing to do what's natural for you to start off. If you have not been doing a good job of maintaining your relationships in the previous year, you can't just jump out there and expect all these great responses right away, right? So you have to do and start off a little bit slower, even though maybe aggressively. So we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. but by doing what comes natural to you. Now, notice I said what comes natural, not what is easiest. Because what may be natural for one person is not so much for the other. One person may really appreciate being able to pick up the phone and leave a voicemail or have a quick chit chat with someone versus someone else who's great with doing the social media outreach or something like that. But in either case, it's not about doing what's easy because doing what's easy does not guarantee setting the foundation that you need in order to move forward at a solid pace for 2021. All right. So focus on what comes natural, not necessarily what comes easy. Because, yeah, picking up the phone may be easy for once, but are you going to do it again next week? Are you going to do it again the week after that? Right? We're talking about building habits, about reassessing who we are and where we are, but doing it from within the confines of who we are right now as we continue to grow and continue to pursue how we can build out, how we can maintain, how we can grow our professional relationships in a way that will be beneficial to us and to those that we are trying to help. So here's the thing, you've got all the regular ways, right? Right now, we are not meeting in person a lot with conferences and workshops and happy hours and galas and all of those things that we might normally do in real time. All right, that is not happening. However, so many of those things have flipped to the electronic, to the virtual world. Now, it may not be as desirable and it may not be as interactive, as much of a connection as you might want or that you might feel, but that doesn't mean you don't do it. All right. So here's the thing, you use all of the technology, you use all of the tools that are at your disposal. Use your phone, use your email, use, the Zoom. My goodness, I'm sure we're all tired of it by now. Use your social media, but you use what you have. I literally just read that in a meditation this morning about remembering to use what you do have as opposed to focusing on what you do not. That's a whole other conversation. But focus on what you do have and then address the time commitment that you're willing to make, because this is really what it's about. What's the commitment you are willing to make to building out your relationships this year? What do I mean? Are you willing to spend 5-10 minutes a day just to make sure that you are connecting with people? Or maybe it's an hour a week, or maybe it's more than that. I don't know. How are you going to do it? Are you going to make phone calls? Are you going to write notes? Are you going to send text messages? These are the things that I want you to start thinking about, and think about them very seriously and then write them down. It is extremely important for you to remember to write down what your commitment is so that you can honor it. Write it on a sticky note, write it on an index card. I always keep tons of them around myself. They're my sticky notes, my pen, my journals, all of that. Write it down. And then you're going to keep track of those people that you reach out to. Now, this is the quick and dirty of it, right? I'm just telling you how to get to this get up to speed very quickly in the new year. And the one thing that I always tell people, if you go to any of my trainings, is to make sure that you identify 2 or 3 people per week, ideally, right? New people, but if not new, then maybe folks who you haven't reached out to in quite some time. So it doesn't have to always be brand new. Now, let me tell you how easy 2 to 3 people is, or maybe I won't say easy, but what a low bar. That's what I will say. Low bar. Because when I was starting out on doing my own business and working for myself, and knowing that I was working in an environment where I wasn't necessarily coming around people all the time, right? I was working solo. So I had to create that for myself. And so I will tell you right now that when I was doing it, I had a goal of 10 to 15 people per week, of connecting in some way with 10 to 15 people per week and I was making sure to go to lunch or host coffees at least 2 or 3 times a week. So that's why I say just making a contact or two of 2 to 3 people per week is a very low bar. So I'm not scaring you with trying to say go for those big numbers, but start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. And you do that, you write it down, you make the commitment on how you're going to do it. Right? And then you build from it. You build from it. You say, okay, I'm going to connect with 2 or 3 people 1 time a week, or spread it out throughout the week. If you're going to make phone calls, maybe they get spread out. If you're going to send emails, whatever it is, stick to it and commit to it. And the reason why you want to write down who you're reaching out to and how you did it, just simple little notes, right? A name, the date, and E for email, Z for Zoom, M for or N for note, whatever it might be. Use your own little shortcuts. But here's what you're going to do, because you're going to want to follow up with those people throughout the course of the year. There are those folks who we may talk to 2 or 3 times a month, and then there are some who it may not be for 2 or 3 times a year. But you want to start to make it a habit of reaching out to those people on a regular basis for you. Okay? This is how you lay the foundation for making sure that you are keeping in touch with people throughout these unusual times. And here's the best thing, even post-pandemic, these are all tips and strategies that will continue to work for you throughout that time. All right. So we're not talking about doing something that's unusual and that will be so different from in the future. We're talking about what is good, solid foundation for right now, and that will continue. And then hopefully we'll have the great benefits of being able to do more of the in-person activities that we were so used to before, right? But this is a great way to start off the year, to identify what's your commitment to building out your relationships with your professional connections and networks, why you're doing it, and then making the commitment to actually do it, right? It's really important to think about the why. Are you doing it because you're looking to make a move professionally? Are you doing it because you want to grow more in a certain topic or an area, or take on some leadership positions? What's your reason for it? We'll talk more later on about the expectation, about mutuality, and about the give and take, because that's what authentic networking is really about. It's not about just taking what you can get from someone. It's about what you can give, and that's when that networking and the connections start to really meld together. But we're not going to spend a lot of time on that today. But we are going to make sure to tell you, be you, be authentic. Okay? If it comes natural for you to, reach out to someone and say, hey, I wanted to check on you. How's your family? All of that, do that, right? Some people aren't necessarily comfortable, or maybe it depends on who you're talking to. But be you, be authentic when you're reaching out. Do not do that because gosh, y'all, it's still possible to be fake and sound salesy even in an email or electronically. It is not a pretty sight. I get them all the times on my LinkedIn, and I'm not happy, and I hit delete, okay? So, again, other lessons for another day. But here's the golden tip that I hinted at, but I want to make sure to emphasize, which is you are going to want to follow up. That is where the gold is. Most people still do not follow up on projects, on people, whatever it is. And the goal is in the follow-up. When you follow up, that's when the connections really start to happen. Okay? Because you're showing that you're caring, you're showing a level of care, you're showing a level of commitment. So do the work, make the call, send the email, write the note, and then because you're writing it all down, you are going to want to make sure that you follow up. so that in a few weeks, especially for someone that maybe you didn't hear from yet, you want to make sure and send them a little note saying, hey, I tried to reach out to you. I know things were crazy at the beginning of the year. Would love to catch up when you get a chance. All right. Here's the thing. It can happen this week alone already. I was trying to get back on the, in the game, get back on the stick myself after the holidays. And I literally used for all of the methods that I've just talked about. I've been on the phone with some folks. I've sent a few emails. Email's not my one of choice because it can be very impersonal and can get buried. I've got a Zoom meeting scheduled, and I've used social media. I've used Facebook Messenger to reach out to one of my contacts who followed up with me this morning. So use everything at your disposal, right? Don't feel locked in because people are just all over the place. So you got to connect to where they are. That is a part of that nurturing of your relationship of your professional relationships. When you reach out to people where they are right now, which is crucial for us in today's times. Okay? That's what I have for you today. I want you to set that weekly goal. 2 or 3 people is what I recommend, and then you can build from it. I welcome any questions, comments that you have. I have a trove of topics that we can talk about, but I always welcome getting new input because there's always something different that people have that they've experienced or that they are experiencing. So I love to hear from you. So drop some comments below afterwards. Send me a message in the DMs, or, if this is on LinkedIn, message me, wherever it may be, or reach out to me. You can always go check things out at patriciavhayes.com, and a link to all of my social media and email are all connected there. Take care, and I'll talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.